as you were coming in, I was discussing what's happening now with ISA. And the political infighting that's going on between the Shias and the Sunnis, and everybody blaming Maliki and Bush. Can you help us understand where this group has come from? Did they come from Al-Qaeda? Did they come from the Muslim Brotherhood? Who are they? And what do you see happening in Baghdad between Iran and America in terms of how we're going to stop these people? You got the microphone.
Okay, well, firstly, to understand what's happening now, we have to go back to 1929, which is the foundation of the Muslim Brotherhood by Hassan al-Banna in Egypt. And this organization was banned immediately by the British colonial authorities. After World War II, it was banned by King Farouk, then was banned by Abdul Nasser. This is a bad guy organization which is very strictly Muslim. Now, what has happened is that, you know, there's a saying, he who sows a wind reaps a whirlwind.
Yes, right.
And by the way, my book, the sixth book, Return to Mecca,
right,
deals with the whirlwind that is going to overthrow the Saudi kingdom, the royal family, and create a complete chaos, which eventually one world government to come in and take control of the oil wells, lest the ISIS and the Al-Qaeda blow up the oil wells. So this is, I think, I say about it in my book, it's happening faster than I predicted even.
Yeah, because we talked about it last time you were here.
Okay, now what happened is this. Many people talk fallaciously about fanatic Islam and then moderate Islam. There is no moderate Islam. It's like saying, is there moderate Nazism? There is no moderate Nazism. There is no moderate communism. There is no moderate Tojo fascism in Japan. The ideology is one. The Quran is one. And what we see happening here is we see what I call revolutionary Islam, which is the Al-Qaeda terrorist attacks on 9/11.
Right.
And then we see evolutionary Islam, which are the good guys. It's just that they're not the good guys. They want to use the oil and the money and the gold and the numbers pouring into the United States now to turn America into a Muslim country instead of a Christian country. They're friendly. You know, they invest their money. Wall Street's going up, up, up in spite of everything. I don't fear a crash in the dollar. I don't fear a crash in the U.S. economy. I think that the one world government is in bed with this Islam, just as, again, this is a Jew's interpretation of Book of Revelation, that the harlot rides the dragon. The harlot is the one world government, in my opinion, and the dragon is Islam. So the problem here is that you have these different Islamic groups. They're all funded by Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia believes that by causing havoc and destruction, it'll strengthen their buying power to use their evolutionary Islam to take over America. And in a sense, they're right. The problem is this is going to come back to haunt Saudi Arabia, I believe. ISIS, the leader, Baghdadi, said, Jordan is next. We're going to kill the king of Jordan.
Right.
We're going to take Jordan. In Lebanon, the ISIS units are already in Lebanon. This war with Bashar al-Assad in Syria is in Syria. It's Lebanon, Syria, Iraq. And it's going to spread into other countries too. This is complete chaos, complete, utter destruction. I believe it'll go into Turkey also. It'll go into Jordan. It'll go into Saudi Arabia. And if you think you can build a house on quicksand, it's never going to happen. And so, you know, I don't want to praise Obama, but I will say one thing. It's a good thing he did not go into Syria to attack Bashar al-Assad. Because had Obama gone in to attack Bashar al-Assad, he would have been helping these ISIS people. Because it's the same people. You know, I live in Israel.
So let me just stop you there. So now with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, because Al-Qaeda is fighting against Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah.
They have regiments of there. So are you saying that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are the same?
They're the same, but they're fighting each other.
Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous because Allah is a God of, and people who follow Allah kill each other. Shiites kill Sunnis, Sunnis kill Shiites. We see here Sunnis killing Sunnis in Fallujah and all these towns that ISIS took. Right. Who are they killing? They're killing Sunni police officers and Sunni army people, destroying families, destroying lives. And they're Sunnis, but they're not Sunni enough. They're not kosher enough for the fanatic ISIS. You know, in Israel we have a problem. We had PLO. PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization became the Palestinian Authority. And with these people, we didn't want to negotiate, but we did. Then Hamas was founded in 88, a much more fanatic system. Do you know that Hamas now is liberal compared to the Islamic Jihad, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS? And there's now ISIS in the Palestinian territories also. This is complete nonsense, complete crazy stuff. There is no way that Israel can tolerate it. There is no way that the Christian world can tolerate it. And you heard what al-Baghdadi said after he was released from jail, prison here in America. He said, "See you in New York."
Right.
He's coming back. And
that's what he said.
And you know, my wife picks up broadcasts all the time that the next series of 9/11 attacks will make 9/11 look pale in comparison.
What do you think America's response is going to be to this? Because you said neither Israel nor America, Christianity, can withstand who they are. And he says he's coming back to New York. Who can stop him?
You know what? Unfortunately, I don't think that there is anything America can really do about this right now in the Middle East. I've heard, I think it was Sarah Palin, who I admire, by the way, I love Sarah Palin, and she said, "Let Allah sort it out." In other words, they want to kill each other, let them kill each other, but Homeland Security...
But in the process, they're driving up the prices of oil. They may take over the oil fields. And the other thing I want to get to, and Sarah Palin's okay, the other thing, is that the fact that Saudi Arabia is financing this, then we ought to go to the head of the snake, should not we?
It's backfiring on Saudi Arabia, and I think that, you see, the United States cannot go against Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia, according to the broadcast my wife picks up all the time, they're propping up your dollar. They're propping up your Wall Street, your economy. You can't touch them. But the problem is that they sow a wind, they reap a whirlwind. All this is going to ricochet and reverberate back in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has 40% unemployment. Saudi Arabia, you have 6,000 princes hoarding all that wealth. And there are a lot of people, including Shiites and including Sunnis in Saudi Arabia, who would like to see the termination of the kingdom. So I believe there will be a civil war in Saudi Arabia. The Arab Spring will come to Saudi Arabia.
Interesting. At some point, I want to talk in depth, not now, about Saudi Arabia's possible involvement in the financing or giving large contributions to Harvard so that they'll attend there. And I don't know what your studies have been about that.
I talk about it in my second book.
Your investigations have, well, give us a little hint of what did happen with Obama's involvement, Saudi Arabia's involvement in financing Obama's education at Harvard.
Okay, well, firstly, you know, I could give you an hour just on the information I've picked up. There's a small Bible group, 200 people, in Rockford, Illinois.
And I know Rockford, Illinois.
What?
I know Rockford, Illinois.
The Free Evangelical Church, that's where I spoke.
Elizabeth and I spent a night there in Rockford, but go ahead.
And a guy got up at the end. He was a retired mail delivery, postman, mailman. And he was talking about how he used to deliver mail to the home of Professor Bill Ayers there in Chicago.
Right.
And he always saw this young black man. It was Obama.
Right.
He said, "Who are you?" He says, "I will be the president of the United States." And this is when he was in college. In other words, this guy was chosen. And I think Farrakhan, I heard Farrakhan say very clearly, this man was selected before he was elected.
Right. He did say that.
This guy was prepared for this job. And, forgive me for saying it, but American presidents, in my opinion, are puppets. And you don't have to be that bright. You just have to know how to take orders and put on a smile and read from a teleprompter. And
excellent description, by the way, but go ahead.
And I'll tell you something. I have a respect for all American presidents, even Obama. By the way, Obama's a brilliant man. It's just his agenda's wrong. I mean, his agenda is Islamic.
He's like the rest of them in that regard, but continue.
George Herbert Walker Bush, in 1992, left the White House. And in my third book, Islamic State Updates, I show, in the information that I've received, that George Herbert Walker Bush and Barbara Bush, the former First Lady, and their son Neil, have received from the Carlyle Corporation, which is a conduit from Saudi Arabia for money. They've received $17 billion after he left the White House. He wasn't given money when he was in the White House. He was given money after. Bill Clinton, he gets $500,000 from every lecture he gives for the Saudis.
Right.
I don't know about George W. Bush, but listen, you don't become president of the United States unless you've gone through the Islamic one world government filter.
It's a pretty powerful statement.
Yes.
So Obama said in Chicago that he was going to be the next president of the United States.
Not next. He said, I will be
the president.
This is many, many, many years ago. And I have to tell you, I think I mentioned it on my first show with you, that in 2006, 2 years before the elections in which Obama won, the Saudis were saying, we will have a Muslim in the White House in 2008. And my wife thought they were nuts. How can you have a Muslim president in the White House in the greatest Christian country on earth?
Well, now, you've made it clear that presidents need to know how to smile, take orders, execute orders, and read from a teleprompter. Obama does that extremely well. However, we've got a real world crisis going on right now with Islam, with Saudi Arabia influencing these terror groups, with Muslims killing one another. And if I get a chance, I want to ask you about Middle East sentiment about how does a Muslim live knowing that his temple could be blown up, his mosque rather could be blown up, his school could be, there's no place safe. His Shiite and Sunni brothers are killing one another. What kind of drama does that bring to the lifestyle of people? But before we get there, we only have a few moments left. Does Obama fit into a social or spiritual part of this massive, if you will, takeover of the Middle East, as we see now with ISIS and also Al-Qaeda, with Syria, and soon with Jordan? And now going back to Iraq, and we still haven't finished in Afghanistan as of yet.
Okay, well, my wife Rachel picked up broadcasts from the Saudis in which they said President Obama has 3 orders to fulfill. 1 is to destroy the Shiite regime in Iran. 2, destroy Israel. 3, destroy Christian America, make it a Muslim country. What I think we're seeing here now is that he tried to do certain things. Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State for 4 years, tried to crush Israel every time, because they built 100 houses here, 100,000 there, houses there. But the fact that they're killing millions of Christians, kidnapping Christians, forcing Christians to convert to Islam, the State Department doesn't say anything because the U.S. government supports the ethnic cleansing of Christians in Africa and the Middle East. Israel is expendable, but the only problem is that God is on the side of Israel and those who are with Israel.
Well, you got that right.
And I call God the great reshuffler of the deck. And so this Tunisian fruit vendor one day burns himself up, self-immolates, and the whole Arab world goes up in the Arab Spring. So God reshuffled the deck. All of a sudden, Hillary Clinton was in a situation that she could not blame Israel. Now, they're jumping on Israel. What do you see all of a sudden? You see them kidnapping 3 Jewish kids, hitchhiking home. And these are ISIS people, and they're backed by the State Department.
These are ISIS people that picked up those 3 Jews?
The rumor in Israel is they are Hamas, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. It's all the same religion. It's all the same organizations.
Okay. Yeah.
And the U.S. government supports the Muslim Brotherhood. The third thing is we're going to see, one of the reasons I think that President Obama wants Iran to get even further into the quicksand of Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon is when Iran pays a sufficiently high price fighting the Sunnis, then the Iranian people will have a Persian-Iranian spring and overthrow the Ayatollah regime, which is the plan that Obama must do.
Obama has 3 orders, and one of those is to destroy Israel, and the second to destroy America.
Christian America, correct.
Why is it that the Netanyahu government, or Israel and the government in general, seems to think that they can appease Obama and in many ways take orders from him to step back from perhaps bombing Iran or from some of the other measures that they could take that would perhaps be more hard line? So if you know this,
the Prime Minister knows it too.
Does not the Prime Minister have the same intelligence? Is what I'm trying to.
Prime Minister of
Rachel knows it. He knows it.
She told them. They have the information. The problem is this. Listen, the United States has always been a great friend of Israel. When we talk about the United States, we're talking about 5 elements. We're talking about the people of America, who are 2/3 Christian, 70% Christian. They love the Bible, they love God, they love Israel. Number 2, you have the House of Representatives and the Senate, our U.S. Congress.
Right.
They're 80% pro-Israel. It's bipartisan. Democrats also love Israel. 3, you have the military. The U.S. military marches in lockstep with the Israelis. Israeli high-tech companies are developing all these anti-missile systems. U.S. is paying for this. U.S. is working with Israel on this. There are 2 elements against Israel. It's the White House and the State Department. And so Israel goes along with almost everything Obama says. Not everything, but things which okay, we can chew our lips and accept it for now. And we're counting the days. I'm not speaking in the name of the Israeli government. We're waiting for the day that there'll be new elections in America, and then we'll see who's next. I'm afraid Hillary will be next, and it'll be just as bad.
You think Hillary will be next?
Yeah. I don't see the Republicans fielding a worthwhile
Well, that's
contender.
true. They don't have anybody and even if they did, I think the deck is so stacked that I don't think the Republicans are going to see themselves in the executive power for quite some time to come. And if there is another 2016 election, assuming that there will be.
And especially if the 12 million illegals, mostly Hispanics, are legalized, then behind on their coattails, they have 50 million Muslims that are scheduled to be brought into the country, and Agenda 21 will be used to settle these Muslims in America. You're dealing with numbers, the European Union versus the Amero, which is U.S., Canada, Mexico, and Latin America. When you have more population, your economy is greater. That's what the contention that I think is what's going on here. So Turkey, with 270 million Turks and Turkish Soviets, will join the European Union, which will bring them to 620 million. U.S., Canada, Mexico is 500 million. America is still short 120 million. You need 120 million immigrants, either from the Islamic countries or the Latin American countries, to have the same population numbers.
Fascinating again, just great information. I wish we had more time, Avi.
Let's talk a little bit about ISIS and
Very good point. Okay.
What's going on in
I gave all the background to ISIS. I didn't talk about ISIS. How many people have heard of the name Stephen Emerson? Stephen Emerson is very famous. He used to be a lot on TV. He's kind of like me on the blacklist. The mainline TV stations won't have him anymore because he's considered anti-Muslim. He's considered Islamophobe. Now, he produced, I think I only have like 5 left on the table, he produced a DVD in 1994 called Jihad in America. How many people have seen the Jihad in America? And this was made by PBS and suppressed by PBS the next day. I saw it in San Antonio on November 11th, 1994. The next day it was gone. Because I'd go to churches in Texas. I say, call 1-800-344-3337. That was the number for PBS. And the next day Christians would come up to me and say, we called that number. They've removed it from the shelves. Clinton, Council on American Islamic Relations, they banned it. So in this DVD, he talks about the U.S. support for the Mujahideen. How many people know the word Mujahideen? Mujahideen are the holy warriors in Afghanistan who were fighting the Soviets. Remember, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan in 1979, and they were there for 10 years. It was the Soviet version of a Vietnam War. When America was in Vietnam, the Russians were supporting the Viet Cong, the North Vietnamese. When Russia was in Afghanistan, America supported Mujahideen. The Mujahideen today are what we know as ISIS. They're holy warriors. They're Muslim warriors. You can call it Hamas, Salafists, Wahhabis, Al-Qaeda, Mujahideen. It's all the same. All based on the same religion, or as they call it, criminal psychosis. The moment they defeated Soviets, they said, guess what? If we can defeat the Soviet atheist Satan, we can defeat the Christian American Satan. And so they turned their guns on the U.S. Stinger missiles that were given to them to shoot down Soviet helicopters were then used afterwards to shoot down American helicopters, with success, by the way. So America, the approach of America at the time was, those are the assets that we have to support to defeat the Russians, because there was a Cold War with the Soviet Union, the evil empire. So now you have the Mujahideen trained by the U.S., financed by the U.S., and they turn on the U.S. It's not like the Brits and the Americans after World War I, or the Brits and the Americans after World War II. You know, that the British and the Americans were always allies. How many people remember the movie Patton, where General Patton says, you know, the English and the Americans are one people divided by a common language. That was so funny. That's my favorite of all movies, General Patton. Anyway, so we have an enemy now. It was trained by us, I mean, by the United States. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it works partially. You remember the PLO, Yasser Arafat? So America trained I think it was a General Dayton, trained the Palestinian Authority police and military. And the Americans and the Israelis actually helped to spawn Hamas in 1988 as a counterweight to the PLO. Let the two fight each other, which is what's going on till today. And I have no doubt today that if the people in the West Bank, commonly known as Judea and Samaria, if they had a choice, they'd go with Hamas. They wouldn't go with Abu Mazen. Nobody likes Abu Mazen. The PLO, they're all a bunch of mafia criminals. But those are the people that America trained. So today, what you would think is some somewhat temporary peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians in the West Bank, that's something that America contributed a lot to, and praise God. Not out of love of Israel, let me tell you. Okay. So the Hamas hates America. Hamas is allied with all the enemies of America. By the way, Arafat, during the war with Saddam Hussein, the Palestinians were on their rooftops yelling, "Oh Saddam, dear Saddam, hit Tel Aviv. Oh Saddam, dear Saddam, hit the cross." Because Tel Aviv is seen as an extension of Western Christianity and Western Crusaders. Israel is seen as a Crusader state. So what would you say about the great Satan in America? America's the great Satan in the eyes of Islam. America's dishing out a lot of money, so they really cannot come out and attack America, the PLO. Hamas can't. And America is paying money to Hamas now. Europeans are paying money to Hamas now. ISIS, you asked about ISIS. ISIS, these are Iraqis, these are Syrians, who are trained by the United States, paid for by Saudi Arabia, in order to bring down Bashar al-Assad, who's a Shiite, and is backed by the Russians. So you have the Cold War here. Russia, China, North Korea, Iran back Bashar al-Assad, and America is backing the rebels, what they call the Free Syrian Army. I just heard this week the Free Syrian Army, they all joined ISIS. So basically it is a war between Sunnis and Shiites. Something that's been going on for 1,400 years. So all of the officers of the Iraqi army who were Sunnis and part of the Ba'ath party of Saddam Hussein, they were all kicked out by Maliki. Maliki's a nut. I mean, he's really stupid. Maliki destroyed Iraq. Forget about Iraq. There is no more Iraq. You have Kurdistan in the north, praise God. Kurdistan in the north is Muslim, but they are very pro-Israel. Kurdistan in the north is pro-American. The Kurds are begging America not to leave. You know, you have American special ops in Kurdistan. Kurds are good fighters. And they're holding their own against the Turks, and holding their own against the Iranians, and holding their own against the ISIS. And the Israelis are there too. Kurds are good guys. I personally believe the Kurds will reach the Euphrates coming in from the east, and we Israelis eventually are going to come in from the west, and we'll meet at the Euphrates, which is God's word. Why is it going to happen? Not because we want to conquer it. We don't want to conquer it. But Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon are going to self-destruct because God is going to take the enemies of Israel, the enemies of the Jews and the Christians, and they're going to destroy each other. Now, that's in my books. So ISIS now says it's going to take Jordan. Why is Israel not plastering Gaza? Because then Jordan will go against Israel and it'll be taken over by ISIS. A very large percentage of the Jordanian people are fanatic Muslims and they support ISIS. Saudi Arabia, you have 6,000 royal princes. Many of them support ISIS. And ISIS has said it's going to take Saudi Arabia and blow up the oil wells and blow up the Kaaba. Completely nuts. I think it's called crazy in the Lord. Because when they destroy the oil wells and they destroy the Kaaba, there will be international intervention and the division and occupation into sectors of Saudi Arabia. I predicted it. It's in my yellow book. The one world government, the economists will not allow the oil of Saudi Arabia to be blown up by ISIS. What does ISIS say? The way to destroy America, the way to destroy the world economy, the way to destroy Christianity is blow up the oil wells. 2 weeks without oil, you can't produce plastic. Once you can't produce plastic, it's the end of the economy. And I believe Israel will be called in to take northwest Saudi. The northeastern part where the oil is, that will be taken by the one world government. So ISIS, I think, is something that it was a reaction to the overreaction of the Shiites against Saddam and the Sunnis. So now the Sunnis got organized and they're fighting him. America's training them, Saudi's paying for it. In the end, Saudi's going to pay for it. It'll be the end of the Saudi kingdom. Yes? Good question. The Saudi leadership is Sunni, but they have a very sizable minority of Shiites. Where? In the northeast, where the oil is. That's one of the reasons why the oil of Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, all these countries, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, all these countries have a very sizable. In the case of Bahrain, Shiites are 70%, Sunnis are 30%, but the Sunnis own everything. So we're talking about a massive revolt by Shiites against the Sunnis. So the whole Middle East is going to be completely crazy. The only place of stability and democracy will be Israel. And I believe that Israel will expand its borders because Israel will have to face a vacuum. There is no such thing as vacuum in war.
And all of Turkey is Sunni.
No. Good question. A very good question. Turkey, now listen carefully, because this is something that I really haven't spoken about until now. Turkey is 31% Shiite Alawite. And they're the brothers of Bashar al-Assad. Do you remember there were demonstrations in Istanbul about a year ago? And Erdogan, the Prime Minister of Turkey, said a foreign country was getting involved in the internal affairs of Turkey. It wasn't Israel. It was Iran. Iran was stirring up the Shiites, Alawites of Turkey, who are 31%, to prevent the Turks from helping the rebels against Bashar al-Assad. They're saying, you go to help the rebels against Bashar al-Assad, we're going to overturn Turkey. Iran was saying to Turkey, we're going to overturn Turkey. And 25% of Turkey is Kurdish. So basically, the Turkish Sunnis are 45% of the population. Turkey is a mess, and Turkey will be a mess. That's God, I think, in action. God's going to use the divisions in Islam. If you look up, when you go home today, 2 Chronicles chapter 20, it talks about 3 armies attacking Jerusalem and then self-destructing as they all kill each other off and get the plague. God takes care of them. The Bible, is true. Everything that happened 2,000-3,000 years ago, it's happening today again, in front of our eyes. All you have to do is study the Bible, and you'll see that these things are happening exactly as they did years ago. So now I'm going to tell you the joke. Why are the Jews and Christians going to be going home to Israel? I told you, because if you have 6 million Jews and maybe 2-3 million Christian spouses and relatives, 10 million are going to move to Israel, because you have 30 million Muslims here who, when they get the order for jihad, they're going to do it. So we have a joke. Jewish people are very cliquey. We don't want our kids marrying out of the faith. So this Jewish guy has 3 sons. How many people remember the joke? 2 hands. Okay, so first son comes home, Daddy, I met the girl of my dreams. What's her name? O'Malley. He says, O'Malley? That's not a Jewish name. I don't care. I love her. She's the woman of my dreams. Okay, son, go in peace. You have my blessing. Please, God, I have 2 sons left. Let them marry girls with Jewish names. Second son comes home. Daddy, I met the girl of my dreams. What's her name? Smith. He says, that's not a Jewish name. I don't care. I love her. Okay, I heard that from your brother. Go in peace. You have my blessing. Please, God, I have 1 son left. Let him marry a girl with a Jewish name. So the third son comes home. Daddy, I met the girl of my dreams. What's her name? Goldberg. Goldberg? Praise God, a Jewish name. What's her first name? Whoopi. So the reason I'm telling you that joke is because the day is going to come very soon that there will be many O'Malleys, many Smiths, and many Whoopies moving to Israel. God is going to gather them all up to Jerusalem because that's where the Messiah is going to show. And I think it's going to be in our time, very soon. God bless everyone, and God save America.
Avi has a lot of DVDs and books and things like that over here. And please check that out. Also, check out Hugh's if you like. And then back on our table, don't forget this magazine. I urge you to pick up a copy of this magazine. Read this article. Give it to someone else. We've got to come up with solutions to socialized medicine. These are the solutions. So thank you so much for coming. We'll see you next week.